Do you know when you're scrolling on Pinterest or Instagram and you come across these stunning, artistic, and creative wedding photos, but you can't quite put your finger on what makes them so incredible? Like, what exactly makes them so elevated and effortless? Why do these photos look so different and honestly better than ours? That used to frustrate me so much because I wanted to be one of those photographers. Like, I wanted to be better, I wanted to do better, but I just didn't know how. So one of these days, I grabbed myself a cup of coffee, I sat down and I picked a bunch of different wedding photos from different photographers, and I started analyzing them, like what exactly make these images stand out. And after breaking it all down, it came down to 5 key techniques that once I started applying them and being more intentional and aware of them, it completely transformed not just my wedding photography, but the way I see photography as a whole. If you're in this position right now and you know you can do better, stick around because I'm gonna break down those 5 techniques so you can apply them to your work ASAP. Let's go. First of all, of course, I have to start with intentional lighting. Lighting is everything in photography. It adds dimension, it sets the mood, and it helps evoke emotions. It's what makes a photo feel alive instead of washed out. But that doesn't mean you need perfect golden hour light all day, because this isn't realistic for us. But it's what actually matters is knowing how to use whatever light you have. I feel like that shooting in different lighting conditions could be a video of its own because there's just so much to cover, but I'm just gonna share a few little techniques that I noticed were the most used by these photographers and those photos that I analyzed. So starting with backlighting. Backlighting is going to be your best friend for wedding photography. So that would be placing the sun behind your couples to create a soft glowing look. Now, side lighting works beautifully for portraits as well as bridal flat lay photos. And side lighting is so beautiful because it shapes the face and it adds dimension, which you could say that makes everything feel more refined and cinematic. Another creative way to play with different lighting conditions is finding little pockets of light. And you can find these little pockets of light somewhere in the shade where you see a little ray of sunshine poking through. And so what you're gonna do, you're gonna set your subject in the sun, and what it does, it really draws the viewer attention to whatever is positioned in the sun. I've been trying this and I've been loving it. It has really pushed me out of my comfort zone because it does feel a little bit scary when you see behind the camera, but I swear the results are gorgeous. It really adds more diversity to my wedding galleries. Now, full shade is often the safest and easiest option for photos, but if you're not careful, it can actually make an image look flat. So instead of placing your couple in any shaded spot, you can find a little area where the background is slightly darker than the subject, because this is gonna make your subject stand out instead of blending in. Lastly, I want to talk about flash photography, so artificial light, because it's another tool that can really enhance your photos and give them that editorial look. I've noticed that a lot of amazing wedding photographers have been using on-camera flash during daylight and outdoors, and it can look really stunning. When used well, flash can add a clean and very polished look, but I find like it's especially useful when the lighting isn't great. Like if you're shooting in harsh midday sun, flash really helps filling those shadows on people's face so they don't look too dark or contrasty. There's just so much you can do with lighting to enhance your photos, and once I stopped treating light as something I have to fight against and started using it as a creative tool, my photos instantly felt more refined. Now, technique 2, composition and framing that feels intentional and tells a story. Lighting makes an image stand out, but composition is what makes it feel intentional. The images that really catch your attention and make you stop scrolling aren't just random moments in a pretty location. They feel artistic because they're framed with purpose. The rule of third is the most popular, is a go-to for wedding photography and portraits in general, but sometimes breaking the rules creates a more candid and dynamic feel. So for example, I've been enjoying slightly tilted photos or having my subject off center because I feel like it can really make a photo feel more authentic, like it wasn't planned or posed. Another idea is leading lines, whether this is pathways, railings, or even the way the light falls into the shadows, like the pocket of light that I mentioned before, because these leading lines can really help guide the eye straight to the subject and make the image feel more polished. Great photographers also look for ways to add layers and context to their photos. So shooting through doorways, flowers, or even over people's shoulders. This makes the image feel immersed, like you're inside the moment rather than just looking at it from the outside. Now, using negative space in your photos can completely change the feel of it. So instead of always having the camera up close your couple's face, you can use a wider lens, take a few step backs, and with that you're gonna make the couple a smaller part of the composition, allowing the location to play a bigger role in telling the story. The couple is not going to be the main or the only focus, so the whole scene is gonna add up to the context, making the photo feel more immersive and meaningful. It's a great way to bring diversity and balance to your wedding galleries. Actually, one of the biggest shifts for me was mixing the perspective and the focal length. So instead of taking just one shot and moving on, I now capture 3 different angles of the same moment: a wide shot, a mid shot, and a close-up. Think of it like a movie scene. It always starts with a wide shot to establish the location, then it moves into a mid shot, introducing the subject, finally a close-up focused on the smallest details. It's what transforms wedding photography from simply documenting the day into telling the couple's story, capturing not just how it looked, but how it felt. 3. Posing that feels effortless. Every wedding photographer I look up to has one thing in common: their photos feel alive. Like nothing looks stiff or overly posed, even when the shots were, in fact, posed. Of course, there are different styles of wedding photographies. I know that some photographers like to plan every single details, from the way the veil moves to the exact position of a hand. And don't get me wrong, I know that there is public for it. Like, I know that some couples love the perfectly polished, photoshopped look. But for me, wedding photography is about documenting the day as it naturally unfolds, while still giving some direction and making sure my couples feel present, relaxed, and actually enjoying the wedding day, not just posing for photos. That's why I love a timeless and candid approach, where posing is about movement, interaction, and feeling rather than just placement. So instead of having a couple hold a stiff pose for minutes, I guide them into natural movement, walking together, letting the dress flow, fixing each other's outfit, brushing hair away, adjusting the veil, and I also encourage soft and natural touches. And honestly, the best moments usually happen between poses, when couples are adjusting, laughing, or just enjoying a quiet moment together. That's what makes wedding photos emotional, real, and ultimately, for me, high-end. 4. Minimalistic and intentional styling. Styling, I don't mean the aesthetic of the wedding venue or the aesthetic of your couples, how they dress up, how they show up. It's more about your choices on a wedding day. And this wasn't something I thought about much early on, but Once I started analyzing other photographers' work, I noticed how clean and intentional everything looked. As wedding photographers, we're there to document moments and emotions as it happens, but we also need to be prepared to capture the moment in the best way possible. That means paying attention to lighting, composition, and where we want the viewer's eye to go. But it also means being mindful of distractions in the frame. So in this case, less is always better. A simple background with great light will always look more polished and expensive than a busy, distracting one. Even if you're shooting the most stunning couple in the most gorgeous wedding venue, you still have to be mindful about your photo location and about what's happening in the background, because you have to avoid distractions and elements competing with each other, like awkwardly placed objects like a random sign or things sticking out behind people's head. Just anything that pull the focus away from your main subject. Sometimes it's just a matter of shifting the angle slightly, taking a few steps to the side, or directing the couple toward a more clear backdrop. Simple adjustment can completely change the shot from feeling random and busy to looking polished and high-end. Intentional styling isn't about staging everything. It's about making small, thoughtful choices that elevate an image and make sure that every detail contributes to the story rather than distracting from it. Now, number 5, editing that stands the test of time. The goal is to enhance the moment, not to overpower it. Think about your grandparents' wedding picture, for example, shot on film. They have that deep, rich quality, and decades later, they still look beautiful and relevant. That's because classic, true-to-life editing doesn't rely on trends. It simply preserves the moment as it was. Natural skin tones are a big part of this. If an image is too orange or too cool or washed out, it immediately feels off, almost like unnatural. Editing should make a photo look like the best version of real life, not a completely different scene. Consistency is also key. So if some images are warm, others are cool, some are desaturated or saturated, the gallery won't have a nice flow to it. When a wedding gallery feels timeless and cohesive, it tells a complete story, one that won't look outdated years down the line. So if you want to see exactly how I edit and deliver my wedding sneak peeks, you can watch this video here, and I'll see you there.